Welcome to Love and Trauma, the real deal. I'm Danielle Sebastian, best-selling author, coach, and yes, I've been through the marriage trenches myself. This show is all about how to actually deal with trauma in relationships and make it work without losing your mind. If you're ready for honest talk, no fluff, and tools that cut through the noise, tune in, because let's face it, love can be a bit of a mess, but it's a mess worth figuring out. This is Love and Trauma, the real deal.
Okay, you can understand trauma, you can understand triggers, you can understand nervous systems, and still keep hurting each other. And that's the part that no one really prepares you for. Because awareness helps, language helps, clarity helps. But sometimes you find yourself thinking, okay, I understand what's happening, but how do we actually change this? If you've been with me for the last 2 episodes, you know what I mean. You understand why you're exhausted. You understand why everything feels so personal. You understand that sometimes his body thinks there's a bear when it's really just a stump. But understanding the pattern doesn't automatically stop the cycle. It doesn't instantly calm 2 activated nervous systems. And it doesn't magically create connection in the middle of conflict. So today, we're going deeper. I'm joined by Dr. Kelly Flanagan. He's a licensed clinical psychologist and relationship coach with more than 2 decades of experience helping people navigate the most tender, complicated part of relationships. His work has been featured in The 5 Love Languages, The Today Show, Reader's Digest, HuffPost, and Success Magazine. He has several books, but his newest book, The Road Less Triggered, is coming out this March. And that is exactly what this conversation is about. How couples can stop reacting from old wounds and start choosing connection instead. He's spoken internationally, even to the Green Bay Packers, and he coaches high achievers who want their relationships to be as healthy and successful as their careers. But what I really love about my conversation with Dr. Kelly is that he doesn't just speak as a psychologist. He brings honesty about his own story, his own struggles, the ways he's had to confront his patterns and do this work personally. And that changes the tone of everything, because this isn't a clinical breakdown from distance. It's a real conversation about what it takes as imperfect humans to move from protection into connection. So if you've ever felt like you're doing everything you can and still wondering if this can actually feel different, I want you to stay with us, because this conversation is about building something stronger than the patterns that shaped it. All right, let's just jump right in. Kelly Flanagan, thank you so much for joining today. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me here, Danielle. It's an honor.
So I would just like to start with, like, before all your books, before the stages, who was Kelly Flanagan, the human, before you became Dr. Kelly Flanagan?
Before I became Dr. Kelly Flanagan, well, most proximal to becoming Dr. Kelly Flanagan, I was I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I met my wife at Penn State in graduate school getting my doctoral degree. Her name is also Kelly, spelled exactly the same way as my name.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she took my last name when we got married, and we got our doctorate, so we are Dr. Kelly Flanagan and
No.
Dr. Kelly. Yes,
Squared.
yes,
Dr. Kelly Flanagan
Kelly
squared.
Exactly. It's hysterical every time we go through TSA. It's so
yes.
great. The TSA person, at security looks at mine or hers, or whoever goes first.
Yeah.
And then the next one, you can just see their brains start to melt and go, I think we might have a
Wait.
problem here.
You're
And then we're
trying
like,
to get.
we are. We're both Kelly and Kelly.
That is funny.
Yeah. So we met in graduate school at Penn State. We got married in graduate school. We were sort of ambitious when it comes to both our personal and professional life. We had our first child in graduate school at Penn State, all within 5 years. We thought for a moment about naming him Kelton, but that was just a little too weird. Kelly, Kelly, and Kelton. And so he's Aiden, and
Aiden. Oh,
yes.
I like that.
And so then we did our residencies in the Chicago area where I'm from, and we wound up here, and I became a licensed clinical psychologist practicing outpatient mental health. And there was a moment in 2011 when most of my revenue, my income came through third-party payers, primarily Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yeah.
And they just announced, I think they gave us like 60 days notice that they were cutting our reimbursement rates by like 15 to 30%. And I was
Oh,
like, oh no, like I can't depend upon these people
yeah.
um, for my family's well-being. And so although I do now, I have Blue Cross Blue Shield now, but as a professional, I was like, I can't rely on them
Mhm.
solely. So it's like, what could I do to start to get my name out there and introduce people to my work, maybe increase demand for my services a little bit so that I don't have to depend quite so much on insurance. And blogging was a thing in 2011, and if you remember,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'd always sort of been like a journal, a huge journaler. I'm like, well, what if I just started blogging? And my ninth blog post went viral. It was called "Marriage is for Losers," and the idea was that in marriage we're often competing to win, but if we can compete to serve and sacrifice and lose, so to speak, then things go quite a lot better. And then I had my colleagues were a little worried about me because I started to drift from strictly professional writings into more personal writings. You can't really do that. You're a
Oh,
therapist,
yeah.
right? What will people think?
Mm.
And then my clients started to come into me and say, "Hey, I read your post and I would have never told you this. But now that I know you deal with this too, and so the humanity of it started to really invite
Mm.
authenticity in the work. So I just sort of went all the way in. I wrote a letter to my daughter that went really viral, and then I wrote a second letter to her that went really viral. And we wound up on the Today Show, she and I. And that was about 2 years into being internet Dr. Kelly. And then from there, I started publishing books, and here we are.
Oh, man.
It's a little
That
bit of
is such a
backstory,
great story. I
a
love
little bit.
that. Yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit. So, was there like a defining relationship or season that opened your eyes to how deeply like relationships can
Mm.
can wound or heal us led you to your work?
You know, it's a great question. It's a little wild to me when I really think about, like, if I could trace it all the way back, where does it
Hmm.
start? It starts with a teaching assistant at the University of Illinois. I'm an undergrad.
Ooh,
Remember, her name
okay.
was Jill. I don't remember her last name anymore. Her name was Jill. But anyhow, I was in a program where once a semester, you had to convert one of your classes to an honors class by writing a special paper. And I chose this psychology class, and she just said to me, "Kelly, what's the one problem you want to solve in the world?"
Oh,
I
geez.
was like, at that time I think I was 19, right? I'm
Right.
like,
You're like,
what? And I said, I think like conflict, communication breakdowns, conflict resolution. And she said, okay, well, that's what you should write your thesis on this semester. I want to connect you with this professor who's doing couples research, communication research here at the university. His name was James Cordova. So I got connected with his laboratory, and I worked in his communication laboratory for the rest of my time at Illinois. Then he was the one who told me to apply to Penn State to work with a
Mhm.
colleague of his at Penn State on communication and conflict resolution. And that's how I met my wife and so on. So it's wild. It sort of goes all the way back to Jill, the TA at the
Wow, I
University of
love
Illinois,
that.
right? Saying, what's the
Yeah.
problem you want to solve in the world? And these days I would say, and I think it's reflected in this book that's coming out. I don't, what I really meant back in 1999, no, it was 1997 when I said it to her, was I want, I want to solve the problem of human disconnection, right?
Yeah.
And conflict is really where human disconnection breaks down. And I want to be a part of creating a world where people can feel connected and together and like they belong, basically. And so that's what I've gotten to do with my career, and it's quite a blessing.
Oh, well, wonderful segue because let's talk. So
Sure.
you are currently in the midst
Yeah.
of releasing, this is your third book, right? Third
It's my
or
third
more?
nonfiction book. I also snuck a novel in there.
You did?
I did, yeah,
Oh.
called The Unhiding of Elijah Campbell, which is near and dear to my heart. If you wanna make a guy cry, have him read The Unhiding of Elijah Campbell. All the guys
Oh.
I know, they say, yeah, from the moment he talks to his father-in-law on the porch for the last 30 pages, I just wept. So, but no,
Oh,
this is my third nonfiction book.
third nonfiction, and I
Yeah,
absolutely love the title.
thank
Um,
you. The Road Less Triggered.
Road Less Triggered. Oh
Yes.
my, you're speaking to me
Yeah.
and my audience
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Um,
this.
Well, I was so, I mean, I can picture, I was actually in my workout room doing a workout when that came to me, struggling to find a title that really captured this book, the concept of this book. And Scott Peck's, classic, The Road Less Traveled, which was
Yep.
titled after Robert Frost's classic poem, is one of my favorite books of all time. He's a fabulous psychiatrist, a great thinker, deeply spiritual person, and so yeah, that title just sort of popped into my head in the middle of a workout. The road, I was like, oh yeah, this book is about a fork in the road. You can either go down the path where you fall into your same old triggered patterns and you end up imprisoned in those patterns, or you can take the path of togetherness that I'm going to tell you how to walk. And it's like fork in the road. Yeah, the road less traveled. The Road Less Triggered. That's the title.
Wow.
And I texted it,
Nailed it.
texted everybody as
Nailed
soon as
it.
I thought of it. They're like, "Yep, that's the one." And I do think it perfectly captures the sort of the vibe and the purpose of this book.
Well, let's jump in.
Sure.
Tell me just a little bit about what you kind of talked about it. You can go down one road or the other. But what have you seen
Hmm.
in all of your experience so far that led you to write this? And I'm speaking particularly towards relationships.
Yep. Yep.
What have you seen that you addressed in this book that would be hopeful for couples?
Yeah. Well, and I'll talk a little bit about my work with couples.
Yeah,
What I want to be, sort of clear about whenever I talk about this book, though, is that the principles are applicable to any close relationship that you want to be closer.
100%.
Parent-child
Mm-hmm.
friendships, even,
Work.
work,
Mm-hmm.
business partnership, colleagues, employees. The principles are universal to the dynamics of relationship. And then, of course, each relationship has its own unique nuance. But I talk a lot about couples because that's what I was trained in was couples work. And I actually, I mean, that was my bread and butter. And probably about 4 or 5 years into being a couples therapist out in the world after graduation, I sort of gave up on it because it wasn't working. Like,
Really?
yeah, like, and the way I
Yes.
describe that is the basic assumption in couples therapy training is that couples communication breaks down, so they aren't able to solve the day-to-day problems in their relationships, and therefore, those problems add up and they erode marital satisfaction and so on. And so they train you to teach couples communication skills, which is a great fit for being an outpatient couples therapist because the number one request of every couple who has ever come into couples therapy is we want to work on our communication, right? So, of course, I'm this young therapist and I've got all the communication tools in the world at my disposal. And so I start teaching these couples communication skills. And a couple of things dawned on me. Number one, a lot of the skills I was teaching them were redundant. Like they already had the skills. They were successful business people and entrepreneurs and teachers and attorneys and stay-at-home parents of bustling households and communicated really well. Then all of a sudden they didn't when they got together, right? And you know, it occurred to me like, whoa, they have all the communication tools they need. They just close their communication toolbox when they need to use the tools the most. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But I didn't know really what to do about that. I didn't know at that point. I didn't even know to say they're flipping from connection mode into protection mode. You know, I often joked with couples now that you know when you're in connection mode, that's when you call to do therapy, but you show up to therapy in protection mode. It's never going to work, right?
Right.
Those two things can't coexist. So I didn't know what to call the communication toolbox. And then finally, years later, in 2019, I was co-facilitating a couples retreat out in Colorado, and the co-facilitator did this great exercise where she had the couples turn to face each other with their knees touching, eyes locked, and she said, "Just do what I tell you." And she said, "One, two, three, close your hearts to each other. Keep the other person out." And then she listed all the reasons you'd want to just flip into protection mode, right? And then she said, "Okay, now one, two, three, open your hearts to each other." And she listed all the reasons to be in connection mode. Like, think about what's possible in your life because of them and why you married them in the first place and all those things. Then she brought everybody together and she said, "The point of that exercise was I wanted you to notice something. You had a choice. You had a choice to keep your heart open or to let your heart close in each of those moments." And it sort of hit me in that moment. That's what the communication toolbox is. It's our heart, right? When our heart closes, we're going into protection mode, and we're disconnecting ourselves not only from the other person, but also from our own connective capacities, our skills and abilities to stay connected. And that when our heart opens, we have access to all of those skills and we have the ability to stay connected. So from there on out, I was like, that's what's happening in that moment with these couples. I can't help. So their hearts are closing, and I need to learn how to help them keep their hearts open.
Mm.
I walked away from that retreat and totally forgot about it for about a year and a half.
Of course, like you always do, right? That's a great idea. Yeah.
Yes. And then you put the little manual you were writing in the whole
Yeah.
retreat into your drawer. You're
Yeah.
like, I'm going to look at it next week. And
Yeah.
then I
Oh,
think
totally next week. Yeah.
next week, and then I think you eventually throw it away about a year later and you never look at it again. And so I'm like, okay, uh, I that sounds really important. I don't think about it again. Really, 18 of probably the most close-hearted months of my life. I was getting triggered left and right. A lot of the head knowledge I had about that I'd written about in Lovable, about my worthiness, and about my sense of belonging and purpose, like it was all there, but I couldn't live it out in these key moments. I blew up my business partnership with my best friend and the best friendship. COVID hit, that didn't help.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
kids schooling from
Yeah.
home, and I was getting triggered left and right. Really, the culmination for me was there was a Sunday afternoon during COVID. My wife had convinced me to get an above ground pool finally because all the pools were closing in the area.
You had needed something to do, right? Yeah, that was at
Yeah.
home.
Yes, we're going to have to stay at home together. We need a
Oh,
pool so we
God,
don't
that
drive
was
each other
terrible.
crazy. It was a great
Yeah.
idea. Problem was we got
Mm-hmm.
the pool installed, and she went out on a Sunday morning to fill it up, and she hung the hose over the side of the pool, and she put a rock to anchor it there, but the rock wasn't heavy enough, and we didn't go back out till that afternoon. And I walked out into the backyard, and the pool was empty, and the backyard was a lake, and I had that moment where I was like, I can see what I'm about to do, right?
Yeah.
It's going to create a rupture. Um, it's it's that weird in between place that we get where we're like, I feel like I'm justified at doing everything
Yeah.
I'm about to do, but I also know that's not going to really get us anywhere. So I was like, I'm
Mhm.
just going to blow off steam on a bike ride, and not the wisest thing to do to cycle 35 miles per hour on asphalt when you're angry and not paying attention. I went over my handlebars, broke my left
No, you
collarbone in two
didn't.
places. Yes. In
Yeah,
the
I
middle of,
prefer to walk. Like,
yeah, that's right. Yes. Um,
okay.
Walking just didn't seem sufficient to the
No, I
moment in terms of,
understand.
you get
I
where I'm going with that.
understand. Yeah.
And although it probably would have been much wiser. And that's is one thing I talk about in the Road Less Triggered is how, people hear open your heart and they hear be it doormat. And the reality is an open heart doesn't make you weaker. It makes you wiser.
No.
Right. Like if I'd
Yes.
opened my heart in that moment, I'd have had wisdom to decide how to respond to it. But, but anyhow, so these two breaks in my collarbone, they didn't heal properly. They're called fibrous tissue non-union fractures. So I've got like two joints there now, and so it made for this long and painful recovery. I get to New Year's Eve going into 2021, and I'm thinking about fitness resolutions because I was terribly out of shape. And in the middle of that, I came across Michael Singer's quote from The Untethered Soul: "Don't let anything in life be important enough that you're willing to close your heart over it." And it took me right back to that couples
Oh,
retreat. I'm like, oh, I actually did still have the manual in my bedside
you
table.
did.
I
You
did.
found
I
it.
did. I actually
Yes.
found it. It's like,
Oh, it was there for a
it,
reason.
it was there for a reason. It had survived an extra 6 months for a purpose.
Yeah.
And I made my New Year's resolution going into 2021, which is moment to moment, I will notice my heart closing and try to open it back up. And let me tell you, when you make that resolution, you realize how hard that is to do. And I couldn't do it. Michael Singer didn't explain in The Untethered Soul how to do it. I realized that if there's going to be sort of like a curriculum for open heartedness, like a process for navigating those triggered moments so the triggers actually turn into togetherness rather than conflict, like I was going to have to, personally, just for myself, I was going to have to figure that out. And that really, that process and the personal experiments and the professional field testing sort of has all culminated in this book, The Road Less Triggered. And I'm super excited now, 5+ years after that New Year's resolution, to finally share it with people.
Oh my, that is amazing. I would agree with you. You know, obviously, one of the biggest things that, helped me when when my marriage was in the midst of just, we were not on the
Mm,
same page.
mm-hmm.
It felt like we were enemies in our
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. Yes.
It
I know that
was
feeling.
when I really started to realize that the behaviors that I was seeing for both of us,
Mm-hmm.
but it started with, I started to realize it with my husband, were coping mechanisms that he developed
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because of the way, for him, it was because of the way he grew up, right?
Yep. Yep.
That were protective for him at some point,
Yeah.
but became very not productive in our
Yes.
relationship. And then to your point, then I went into protective mode because
Mm-hmm.
I felt unsafe.
That's
And
right.
then my coping mechanisms that I
Yes.
had was like putting, fuel on a fire.
Absolutely. And you have two people self-protecting,
Yes.
right? And really not even capable of connecting in that
No.
moment.
And
Yeah.
you're right. Your heart is closed.
How did you do you have a like that's a powerful I mean you basically shifted in that moment, from being critical to being compassionate, to sort of recognizing there's pain underneath these protections. And we talk about that in the ninth chapter of this book. How 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 did that epiphany happen for you? Is it one thing? Was it many things coming together?
Oh my. I mean, so my situation, my story was interesting because
Okay.
my marriage was imploding. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I can't do it anymore. I can't, I can't do this anymore.
Yes. Yes.
And I got to this point where, I took my little toddler to my parents' house, and we had a
You
stepdaughter
did.
at the time
Yeah.
that I was devastated because I didn't know what
Yeah.
that would look like if
Yeah.
we separated out, what my
Mm-hmm.
relationship with her would be like. But it got that bad.
Yeah.
But my husband was like, no. So he grabbed the ring, he followed me. And at that point, we talked, and I could just tell something was wrong. And
Mm.
I just looked at him and I said, why are you even with me? You hate me. And he looked at
Mm.
me and he said, I don't hate you. I hate myself.
Whoa. That's powerful. His willingness to be vulnerable, self-aware
Yeah.
about that, of his pain and his underlying stuff, and then to be able to express that and share that with you. Wow.
And I looked at him and I said, there was just something that I knew. There was some piece of the puzzle that I just couldn't put my finger on.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
And we had a real conversation for the
And you had a
very first time.
yes. Yep. Um, this is a powerful, so in the early parts of the book, I talk about a three-part process: getting calm, getting free, and then getting connected. And, usually we do that in the reverse order. We start to feel
Yes.
dysregulated and we try to get connected in order to calm what's going on in here, instead of calming what's going on in here in order to get connected. So we talk about how fundamental getting regulated before we relate is. And then in the book, we talk about this process of starting to become familiar with our emotional patterns that in us that are underpinning that triggered moment. And it sounds like the two of you pivoted to that part of the process in that moment. Let's talk about what's
That
going
moment.
on underneath the hood here. It's powerful. Holy cow. You can probably trace your relationship back to that moment.
Yes. That
Mm-hmm.
was like the beginning of my relationship, really,
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
that I think, where things were real, for the first time.
Oh, just last night, I came upstairs. Uh, my heart was closed. I'd had a few things happen yesterday. And these days that shows up as I'm pressured. I'm a little bit snippy, controlling, critical. You know, my wife can just feel the energy. I mean, probably as soon as
Yeah.
I stepped
You
up the
know it.
stairs,
Yep.
right?
We
You
have these
feel the
little spidey senses that we,
exactly, exactly. And she basically said, and not in probably nicer than this, but why are you being a jerk? You know, and the temptation, of course, is to stay in protection mode and be like, well, that's after everything I did today, I can't get a little bit of slack. You won't give me any slack. Like, cut me any slack is probably the thing that I wanted to come out of my mouth. And I paused because, to your point, the pivot from protecting to confessing what you're in pain about is just so huge. I just said, actually, if I'm being honest, this thing happened today and it really hurt me, and I can't quit thinking about it. And I'm feeling a little self-protective. Like, she's instantly like, oh man, I'm in that with you. Like,
yes,
she'll go to battle for me with that
such a
situation.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who hurt you? Let me get
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And then I appreciated her so much because it didn't fully, I mean, my heart didn't fully open in that moment. I was sort of bouncing back and forth. And my daughter came in. She was doing a chimes practice at church, and she came in the door. She's 16 now, so she can drive herself around. And she said something, and I immediately jumped in with like a solution that just didn't even make any sense because I hadn't really listened, right? And she did this like side eye thing, like
Yeah.
sending me the very clear signal, like that's not cool, dude. And my wife said, "Your dad had something hard happen today, and he's having a hard time slowing down."
Amen.
And my daughter's like, "Oh, huh." And I'm like, and all of a sudden I'm feeling loved, and it's so much easier to open my heart. So it just the concept that an open heart opens hearts, and it's the synergistic thing that when people are committed to that, it's just incredibly powerful.
Banging your head against the wall trying to navigate the complexities of a relationship impacted by childhood trauma, it doesn't have to be this daunting. When you're married to a partner with unresolved childhood trauma, it can feel like you're walking on eggshells, never quite knowing what will set them off. No matter what you try, it feels like there's always something triggering another emotional response that seems completely out of context. And the harder you try to fix it, the more discouraged you feel. So what's the issue here? Navigating marriage with a trauma survivor is different. The love languages don't work. Date nights don't work. Self-help books don't help. But here's the good news. I've created something that does work. Something built from years of hard-earned lessons and real-life experience. Ready to take the first step toward real change? Let's talk. I'm offering a free one-on-one call where we'll dive into what's going on in your relationship and figure out a way forward together. This isn't just another quick chat. It's a chance to finally be heard, to share what you're going through with someone who truly gets it. No judgment, just real support. So if you're ready to start making sense of it all and find a little more peace in your marriage, book your free call now. Your happiness, your peace, and your relationship are worth it. Let's do it together.
in my relationship at that time, you know, when that happened, when we finally were like, okay, we know what's underlying all of this and causing, you know, we know that this is the piece of the puzzle we've been missing. So what do we do from here?
Right.
A lot of our conflict in our relationship was control. My husband really needed to control the environment very much, right? And then also, you know, controlling conversations when things were talked about, you know, all those things. And that caused a lot of friction with us. And so I poured into trauma, you know, and coping mechanisms. And it was like this light bulb moment. I'm like, oh my gosh, when someone grew up like he did, what was safe for them? The things they could control.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it was like, boom.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, he's not trying to control me.
Right. Yeah.
He just feels more safe when
Yes.
he is able to control the environment.
Yeah.
That is this huge open hearting moment, right?
Huge open hearting moment. And one of the ways, like, I mean, for me, that's been most helpful to really concretize that is that, like, even to think of it as he's not even controlling the environment for him. He's controlling the environment for the kid in there that is still in there, right? And needing to feel safe. So that's his job now, is to help that kid feel safe. Problem is, it doesn't help anybody around him feel very safe.
Safe. It does the opposite. But you don't know that. He didn't know that.
He didn't
right?
know it.
And so, but then I was able to be like, okay, so I know you love to have the blinds at these, literally, right? The blinds at certain things. However, I am concerned because this is my baby's room.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to be able to see him sleeping in here.
Yeah.
So what kind of compromise can we come? You know,
totally.
Because I know why why that makes you feel comfortable, but that isn't making me feel comfortable.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And I hope it's okay. I keep referring to chapters of the book, but it just is also relevant. Chapter 7, setting boundaries without battles, right?
Yes.
Which is about learning how to express what you want with an open heart, recognizing that the other person may want something different, but if you can both keep your hearts open while sort of negotiating what you want, you oftentimes don't have to even get to the point of setting a boundary, which is like, well, this is the way it has to be. You collaborate, you dance instead of dueling, right? And that's a great example of that. Chapter 2, I say it's not the fight or flight response. It's the fight for human beings. It's the fight, flight, or finagle response, because we control the finagling, right? Like, for most mammals, it's generally speaking, we hide from the threat or we stand up to it and fight it. And for us human beings, a lot of us, we just try to manage it, try to control. I say I'm not a control freak, but I am a control sneak. I've got a lot of blinds in my life. I'm keeping at a particular level just so that I feel safe in here, you know? And so completely, I think probably to anybody listening right now, completely relatable, just those subtle ways we're controlling in order to keep ourselves feeling safe.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like if you are getting in your book, your hearts are closed, especially to each other. Yep. What would you say is the first step? The first thing you would recommend?
So, I think the first thing I would recommend is noticing. So assuming we've got that covered, and particularly in chapter 1, we talk about using your body as a warning sign that your heart's about to close. You're about to flip from connection mode into protection mode. I present a study in the book that suggests if you use your bodily signs rather than your five senses or your thoughts, then you can get about an 80% earlier warning that you're about to flip into trigger protection mode. So use your body to notice. Become a student of your defensive responses. Practice watching them instead of wielding them. And I was gonna say if you think that's easy, but probably nobody really thinks that we know how hard that is. I think Michael Singer was the one who said, If you want to know why you do something, don't do it and watch what happens inside of you. Right? When you actually
True.
don't do it, you disrupt the defensive response, and then take responsibility, take ownership for regulating your nervous system. I mean, nothing else can happen until you are regulated. I will often point out, like, classic example, it's probably stereotyped and whatever, but wife says you left the toilet seat up again. Husband gets triggered and reactive, right? Um, our nervous system is meant to be triggered only when we're in mortal danger or could potentially be in mortal danger, right? So when your wife tells you that you've left the toilet seat up and your nervous system acts like she just threatened to kill you,
Yep.
like, there's more going on here than meets the eye. So
Yeah.
get that nervous system regulated and now ask the question, what else is going on here, right? Like, your husband volunteered that. You are making an effort to see that in him. But the next step then, I often describe as learn to perceive the patterns, right, in your pain point across people and situations. Notice that it isn't always just one person. You want to have the blinds at a certain height at the office as well. You react to when this person says that, when it's similar to this person, you react this way. Begin to notice that the common denominator is you and a certain pain point that is getting stirred up inside of you when you're triggered, and shift your attention from your people to that pain point. Take one step on that inner journey to becoming more familiar with that. That's usually the next step. You can't do what your husband did, which is to be vulnerable about it and express it until you started to see it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
One of the things that uh, I started to, what of course was the first notice and be very observant and I really started to understand, my husband's triggers and then my protective defaults
Yeah.
when he was triggered. But I also needed to start to figure out how I could disrupt the pattern.
Mm-hmm. And what did you?
And one of my
Yeah.
biggest recommendations is the pause
The pause
in the moment.
Yep. Yep.
And I started realizing that, but I am pausing, I was like, but I am pausing. I would read it and says, yeah, I get that. I am pausing, but I started to realize what I was pausing, what maybe just a little bit too late.
Interesting.
And things had already started going down that bad road, right?
Yep.
So I loved what you said about noticing your body first.
Yes. I mean, I'll be out in Colorado next week giving a keynote, and the title of it is The Powerful Pause, right?
Yes.
That will transform your relationships. It's becoming aware of the opportunity to pause just a little bit earlier, right? As soon as you can is great, right? Like, just as soon as you can.
Yeah,
Like, let's
whenever
start
you
there.
can.
Yes.
But
start to move that up as much as you
Yes.
can. Honestly, like, if I was practicing that yesterday, and this is it for me, it's just it's an ever so subtle quickening, an urgency, and a sense of I got to go faster, and my brain starts to move a little bit faster. And honestly, that's such a reliable indicator that an hour, 2 hours from now, I'm going to be easily triggered. That I need to pay careful attention to that sort of initial sign for me. And I think everyone probably has their own unique sort of fingerprint of arousal where it starts. But to move it as your awareness is close to the beginning of that escalation, I think is important.
Yeah, I found that to be really helpful because when we would be trying to pause after we'd already started going, it was just harder. We could do it, but after some practice, but it is harder. And so I found I wanted to pause earlier to get into my logical part of the brain.
Yep. I remember once, it was Christmas Day. My wife and I had been fighting for about 3 days, I think. And it was a wild moment because she was over here. We were in the bathroom. She was over here, and I was looking in the mirror. There was something about looking in the mirror and seeing myself say things. I was like, I don't even believe what I'm saying anymore. Like, and in the further you get into a conflict cycle like that, the deeper you go into protection mode, the more you got to dig yourself out. Yeah. So if you can sort of catch yourself stepping into it, there's so much more degrees of freedom when it comes to your emotional, flexibility. Yes. To your point.
Is the other thing that I found, so to open the heart to speaking to that, was me I had little mantras
Yeah.
that I would
Good.
tell myself during the pause, right? So I tried to
Yes.
pause and then I had mantras. This isn't about me. This isn't really
Mm,
about him either.
yes. Oh, so good.
This is about the past.
Mm, yes.
I'm curious if that is something that you found that helps.
Yes. I love the idea of a mantra. I think one of the most effective mantras, because we have to actually in that moment retrain our nervous system to know that it's safe now, right?
Yes.
It's stuck in the
Yes.
past. um, I mentioned some research by Bruce Perry, psychiatrist, who explains that your brainstem can't tell time, doesn't have a watch, and that's on purpose because you're supposed
No.
to react to everything that's threatening right away without pausing to go, oh, is this related to that thing that happened in the past? And all
You're
that.
right. Exactly. That's not very
Yeah.
good survival.
So one of the first things a mantra can do is to bring our frontal lobe back online and
Yes.
go, take a look around. The toilet seat is up. And
It's
she
a
did
toilet
just
seat.
say that. She did just say that again. And
Yes.
she didn't say, thanks for everything else you did today. Yes,
Exactly.
that's all true, but we are not on the Serengeti and there's no tiger chasing me. Yeah. And so just sort of like bringing the frontal lobe on, using a mantra to remind that nervous system that it is safe. And boy, you get it. Like the step right after recognizing that you have a pain point that's being stirred up is always recognizing that it is not ever entirely about this moment.
No, ever. Hardly
Yeah,
ever. Literally.
hardly ever.
Hmm.
People are really and this is wild. In the what I call the peaceful pivot process that we've been talking about here, I thought recognizing the pain point would be the real place I'd get resistance from people. It's not. It's recognizing the ways your pain point is connected to your past. We're really invested in
Yeah.
going, hey, the past is behind me. I don't need to deal with that. And the way I started out my novel, The Unhiding of Elijah Campbell, the first line of the book is the past is behind us, but it is also always within us, right? We carry the past with us, inside of us, stored in our nervous system. And then in our triggered moments, and this is what I always say, the grace, the blessing of your triggered moments is you don't need to go looking for your past. In your triggered moments, your past is pushing its way into the present. And so you're getting an opportunity to experience what it was like for you at a particular stage of life and getting to know that part of you even better. So yes, that mantra, this isn't about, don't personalize it. It's not about me.
Yeah,
It's not even
no,
about this
it's
moment.
not about, and yeah. Also add in,
Yeah.
it's not about the toilet. Like,
And it's not about the toilet. Now, if you try to, I like that it's a mantra that you're saying to
me.
yourself,
I'm
because in
it's to
that
me.
moment, right?
No, don't say that. Mm-mm.
If your partner's triggered and you say, "Oh, it's not about the toilet, it's about your mom," it's
No,
not
no,
going.
this is internal, people.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Which
Yeah.
goes back to that idea that we're not in that moment jumping back into trying to connect. You're taking a pause
No,
before you do
no.
that. This is about
Mm.
a break in relating, not rushing back into relating. So yeah.
That leads me perfectly to kind of what my third step is
Hmm.
that I think that a lot of times people think, well, you're just telling me to pause
Mm.
and just let it, and then, but then nothing is ever changing.
Nothing ever gets resolved. You hear that a lot. Yep.
Hmm. Or you're just telling me to throw it under the rug and be okay with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the important part. That's the other important part is coming back to it.
Coming back to it. And I have to confess, in probably in 21, that first year of my resolution, I spent the first 6 months not knowing how to get untriggered and open my heart. But then I probably spent another 6 months to a year just hanging out in an open heart rather than reconnecting from that. Right.
Yes, I agree.
And
Hmm.
my wife, of
Peace
course, is like,
first, don't
yeah,
you think?
yeah,
Peace first.
peace first,
Peace
then
first.
give it another go. And um, it I was a little oblivious. You know, my wife was really frustrated. She's like, "Oh, great for you." Like the thing starts to happen between us, and you just go, "Oh, I will walk away and be open-hearted." Like I don't think that's the whole deal. And she was right. And so then to then develop the skills and the sort of uh, bank of experiences of coming back together and maintaining that open heart as you reconnect is it's really powerful stuff. So yes, to your point, we're not neither one of us I don't think is telling anyone, it's just all you, go chase your inner peace and it'll all be all right. We're here for relationships. We're not here to walk away from each other. We're here to walk with each other, right? So we have to come back for sure.
Right.
What helps you do
Yeah.
that?
Exactly. What helps you? Well, it's interesting because I'm like the time to reconnect is when neither one of you are triggered anymore,
Correct.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the biggest pushback I get is what you're telling me that I should bring up a sensitive subject when things are going well. Why would I do that?
Exactly.
And I'm like, I get it, but that's the only time a conversation will go well.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm,
Yes, and the expectation, understandably, is that it will all go south again.
yeah,
But you're actually getting a rep when your nervous system is regulated and you're being intentional at practicing it a new way, for sure.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I also think an important piece of prepping for that reconnection
Yes. Tell me.
is being clear about what you're doing during during the powerful pause,
I
right?
agree.
Like I remember a time. It was an afternoon, maybe a year into this, when I was really proud of myself for how I'd showed up that day, like really super present as a husband and a father, and and
Yeah.
it's dinner time now, and my wife's making dinner, and I'm sitting at the counter, and this is prior to my launch of my novel, and I have a thought, and I really respect her opinion on all things uh, related to my writing career. So I said to her, I was like, "Hey, can I ask you a question about the launch?" She looks at me, she goes, "Do you ever stop working?" And now what I'm hoping for at this moment is kudos about how present and how much I've not worked. And she actually comes back with the opposite. And I was like, this is where I caught myself early. I mean, I was really
Uh,
triggering. I'm gonna
uh.
go to the other room and take a couple breaths. I'll be right back. Right. I thought I'd be there back before the green beans were done boiling or whatever. It took me 2 days. 2 days
Oh,
to
yep.
get my nervous
There's no
system
time limit.
regulated. There's
There's no
no
time
time limit.
limit. Hmm.
No, there's not. But a lot of times our partners are used to us, our people are used to us being punitive with our withdrawal, right?
Yep.
Like it's a
I know.
punishment, it's disconnection. And so that can ironically be escalating things while you're off having your pause. And so that time stands out as a time, it was one of the first times where I was able to like be very intentional about that and say, hey, text her. um, this isn't going as fast as I thought. I don't want to show up again to this conversation until I can show up the way you deserve, and so trust me that I'm working on this, right? And then, like you said, it would be easy after 2 days of that when your heart's back open to go, okay, let's just move
Fine
on.
now. Why? I don't think
Yeah,
we need to talk about it
we
anymore,
don't need to
right?
talk about that. But that, I mean, that is really when the relationship takes off, is when you reconvene with that open heart and have that conversation. Um, so yeah, I think this idea of a pause is really central to so much of that.
To your point about uh, we're coming back to the conversation.
Hmm.
Uh, I loved what you said about it's important to bring in what you've been doing during
Hmm.
the pause. I
Hmm.
love that because one of the entry kind of scripts that I have is so I've been thinking a lot over the last 2 days about
I like that. That's a great entryway.
because it does, you
Yeah.
have been,
Yeah.
both of you are,
Yeah.
right? It's
Exactly.
just that
Yeah.
you never voice it.
Yes. Exactly.
Um, so I love that entry tip. Um,
And the temptation when you're in that pause, because your self protection, that closed heart's going to want to stay focused on the other person, what they could do. It's like picking up a self-help book because you really want to, you need the help yourself. And then by page 10, you just realize you're thinking of all the people in your life who really need
Yeah,
it.
that need it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so to be able to reconvene and go, I've been thinking a lot about me, yeah, in this way, like
Yes.
what's going on in here, and I want you to know about it. Like, what a great way to kick it off. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, I love these tips. These are real life things, I think,
Well,
that
and
people
I love
can
how
bring in.
like I
Yeah.
love how the two of us, are convening on or converging on something rather that feels real and sort of universal, but through our own stories, sort of coming to it from different angles, but coming to the same place.
Well, I love that too, because so many times I think we're so worried, like, does that work for the other person?
Mm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so having these little tips that seems to work for both sides,
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I love,
yeah. And one of the
right?
things so one of the things I learned over the course of that first year of practicing open-heartedness was, well, it sort of culminated, so that was the second year of COVID. We were not sure how Christmas would play out because there was a second wave going around. So we were like, we're just getting out of Dodge, and we went to Mexico.
Yeah.
And I'm a relatively easily triggered traveler. Like if you like your blinds a
Yeah.
certain height at home,
Yeah.
traveling
Indeed.
internationally isn't the most
Travel
fun
is
thing you.
tough.
Yeah. And there, like, I mean, Mexico, there's like machine guns and trucks, and like, we had to pay people to get back into the country with COVID restrictions. We didn't break the law, but like people were sort of extorting us, and it was a crazy trip. And
Oh,
we get home, and it's New Year's Eve now, exactly a year after uh, my New Year's resolution started. And we're sitting with the family, and my wife's like, "Hey, why don't you tell the kids what you've been doing all year? Maybe we'll want to practice that as a family this year." And so I told them, and there was this long pause, and my daughter, I think she's like 13 at the time, she looked at me and she said, "That must be why every time something went wrong on the way to Mexico, I looked at you and I felt calm." I
oh.
was like, "Oh," get emotional just thinking about it. Like, oh my gosh, like
Mm.
it started to hit me that we don't just kind of create the environment for our people. We are the environment,
I
right?
know.
And if we're open hearted and we're calm, then they're getting to live and to grow and to change and to heal in a safe environment, as well. And so that's the exciting thing. I mean, to me, that's the exciting thing to me about this, that people will read this book and not only get to experience the peace that comes from the process, but to become that peace out in the world so that other people get a leg up on opening their own hearts, basically.
Oh, I love, yeah, that is an amazing, amazing thing
Yeah,
when we
I
can
wish
do
I could
that,
say
be
that
that for
every
others.
moment since that New Year's Eve, I've been that calm
Been able
presence
to
for my
do that,
daughter. But as
right?
I already shared last night, I wasn't. But I do think that there's enough safety that's been established in the relationship at this point that she could like look at me
Yeah,
with that side eye, like, "Dad, come on, like
yeah.
that's not you at your best." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah, you're right." Yeah,
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the road less triggered is coming out
it's coming out March 3rd.
March
Yes,
3rd. And
yes.
people, you're taking
We're taking
pre-books.
pre-orders. If folks want to take a
Okay.
look at it, they can go to roadlesstriggered.com.
Okay.
And through the pre-order period, there is a whole mess of bonuses, $348 worth of bonuses that you get when you pre-order it if you go to that URL. First of all, I didn't want people to have to wait to read the introduction. I think the introduction alone will be
Mm.
like putting on a new set of glasses and seeing the world differently. So you can download that right away. You can watch a 90-minute masterclass on the whole process I recorded with a good friend of mine. You can, if you want, get access to the launch team, and then you actually get a 6-month free subscription to my online community, the Less Triggered Tribe. So lots of cool
Oh
bonuses
my gosh.
if you go
I was
over
on
there.
there and I was like, whoa,
It's a
oh
cool. I
my
mean,
gosh, this is
yeah,
amazing.
It's a lot of
Amazing.
fun. Yeah, we have a monthly call. It's actually coming up here just tomorrow. And what we're doing this month is we're debriefing the holiday season.
Yeah,
And we're going to turn
indeed.
the goal is to turn any holiday struggles into everyday successes with the process of being less triggered. So we're gonna have an incredible conversation. People are going to come away with practical ideas about how to do that. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a must. The bonuses, wow. I was really, really impressed. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. So my final question,
Yes.
if you could sit across from a couple who is just feeling exhausted, discouraged, and unsure if things can really change, what would you want them to hear?
I would say good news. That's exactly how it always feels right before it changes.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Richard Rohr, he uses the word ego to describe that protective matrix of things that we do. And he always says no one would ever give up their ego if it was still working, right?
It's true.
And just to recognize that this is a, if you choose for it to be, and if you be intentional, this is the turning point. This is the point where the old things quit working. They can't get you where you want to go, and you're going to start to develop new talents and skills and capacities. And it's going to be pretty marvelous if you're willing to own your part of the pattern. And I would say, and I'm not just saying that, like I get to watch couples do it every day, which is amazing.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you for all of the stuff that you're doing with your book, the work you've done. Like I said, the freebies that you're getting, I know your goal is just to help as many people as possible. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. I know that we sometimes need a little extra encouragement to even do super helpful things, but I know that as soon as this book gets into people's hands, they're going to run with it. So I'm super excited for that to happen.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to watch it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Danielle.
Oh my goodness, that conversation. It was so amazing. I hope you loved it as much as I did. But before we wrap up, I want to bring this back to what I call the real deal part of the show, because these conversations are powerful. But if you don't leave with something grounded, something you can actually carry into your week, it's really easy to just nod along and then fall back to the same pattern tomorrow. So here are 3 things that I want you to hold on to, not perfectly, just intentionally. Number 1, having an open heart does not mean being a doormat. I need to say that clearly. When we talk about staying open, when we talk about understanding trauma, when we talk about compassion, that doesn't mean tolerating behavior that hurts you. It does not mean shrinking. It does not mean walking on eggshells. And it definitely does not mean abandoning yourself to keep the peace. You can have an open heart and still have boundaries. You can stay soft and still be strong. And in this episode, we talked about 2 real things that you can start doing to open your heart in a healthy way. Number 1 that I want you to do is, it's not about you. It's not about him. It's not about the toilet. It's about the past. And you guys, I'm saying the toilet on purpose because so often the fight looks like it's about something small, right? The dishes, the tone, the timing, the text message, the toilet seat, but it's almost never about that. And it's not about you trying to criticize. It's not about him trying to be difficult. It's about what got activated. It's about shame. It's about fear. And it's about old wounds that learned to react fast. So the next time something small turns into something big, I want you to pause and remind yourself, this really isn't about the toilet. It's about the past. And that shift alone can soften so much. And the second thing that you can start doing today, and I hope you heard it loud and clear, to break your current pattern and start creating a new one, is that powerful pause. If you take one tool from this entire series, let it be this: the pause. When something hits you, When the tone changes, when you feel your body tighten, I want you to pause. Not avoid, not suppress, but slow it down. And here's something that Dr. Kelly pointed out in our conversation that I think is really important. We actually recognize in our bodies that we're getting activated earlier than we think. Those are signs. Your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, your breathing shifts, your thoughts start speeding up. That's the moment, and that's where the work begins. Start paying attention to those signals, because the more aware you become of your body's early warning signs, the earlier you can move the pause. So instead of pausing after the explosion, you can start pausing before it. And instead of reacting from protection, you can start responding from intention. Now, as we close this 3-part series, I want to remind you of something I've said from the beginning. It's not about you. It's not about him. It's not about the toilet. It's about what happened in the past. But what happens next? That's about both of you. You're not too sensitive. You're not imagining it, and you're not alone in this. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next week.
All right, that's a wrap for today on Love and Trauma, the real deal. Big thanks to my guests for sharing their insights. Couldn't have done it without you. Now, for those of you looking to take this journey further, I've got something special. Head to my website to grab Real Tactics, Real Healing, a survivor's playbook for navigating a relationship with a trauma survivor. It's packed with everything you need to know, do, and say to navigate the emotional minefield, find your balance, and regain your self-worth and happiness.